guy in my class tried to get my attention by talking trash. I ignored him, so he started spreading nasty rumors about my mom. I snapped, grabbed my metal pencil case and beat the living hell out of him. The teacher couldn't even pull me off. When they called our parents, his mom pointed in my face and screamed that girls like me should be drowned at birth. Big mistake. This time, it was my parents' turn to start swinging. The guys in my class loved giving girls nicknames. Girl Shadow, Bugs Bunny. You name it, they had it. My deskmate, Sarah Shore, just had Shore in her name, so they've been teasing her with a nickname since the first day of school. Me. Because I was tall and developed early, I was one of the first girls in our class to wear a bra, so I got a teasing nickname too. It was always on the tongues of those guys, always being whispered about. After gym class today, I heard my name in their mouths again. This time they were even grosser, laughing and mimicking how I run, cupping their hands to their chests and panting. My deskmate Sarah was furious. Are you psycho, Chloe? Doesn't seem like it. You're really unpleasant. Yeah, you guys are way out of line. We're telling the teacher. The girls all chimed in, backing me up, angrily telling them how wrong they were. Leo and his crew just laughed. Is it wrong? I didn't name anyone who said I was talking about Chloe. I was talking about the tall girl. He was grinning like a shameless, punchable jerk, betting I'd be too embarrassed to admit the nickname was mine, assuming I'd be too ashamed to fight back. But he was wrong. I stood up and shot back. Who do you think you're talking to? Look at yourself before judging others with that sour attitude. You're in no position to mock anyone. My comeback was brutal. Leo froze for a second, stunned. But a second later, he exploded. Chloe, who do you think you are talking to me like that? Do you really think you can insult me and get away with it? He was tall and built you to saying whatever he wanted, without anyone daring to talk back. Being torn down by me like that. He couldn't take the hit to his ego. He balled up his fists and lunged at me. Of course, the other kids jumped in trying to hold him back, feeding him lame lines like "don't hit a girl." I just laughed. A man. What kind of man gives people insulting nicknames? Deliberately calling someone that your standards for men are so low. You'd probably call anyone a man. Chloe. Leo completely lost it trying to rip my collar off. Through the crowd of people, Sarah screamed and shoved him hard, trying to keep him away from me. The two sides dissolved into chaos. Guys pulling Leo back. Girls forming a wall in front of me, screaming insults. The noise was so loud it brought a patrolling teacher running. Only he wasn't there to find justice. He was there to pick a side. After listening to everyone jabbering over each other, this bald middle-aged guy just waved his hand dismissively at me. Chloe, why are you always using such strong language? What did your parents teach you? Making jokes about other people's bodies. 1,000-word apology on my desk Monday. On what grounds? The girls were even more pissed off than I was. Why are you blaming Chloe? It's Leo who's the psycho. So it's wrong for Chloe to lash out. But it's fine for Leo to give people nicknames? This is campus bullying. You're biased. We're going to the head of discipline. Kids these days are sharp. They know exactly how to hit where it hurts. The second they saw the teacher siding with Leo, the girls weren't having it. I stood right at the front and gave Leo the middle finger. What's wrong, little guy? Leo's face was purple with rage. He reached over the crowd trying to slap me. The girls shoved him back, scratching and pulling, protecting me like a pack of lionesses. I wiped some annoying hair out of my face, saw my opening, grabbed Leo's collar and slapped him hard across the face. My nails left scratches. Seeing things escalate, the patrolling teacher panicked, probably worried about his own liability. He turned and ran to find Mr. Lee, our temporary homeroom teacher, to sort it out. Mr. Lee is one of those pricks who's notorious for siding with the boys. He once famously said that if kids start dating, it's always the girl's fault for tempting the boy. Seeing this massive fight, he didn't even think. He just sentenced me to a public apology in front of the whole school during the Monday morning flag-raising assembly. To his credit, he was smart enough to also punish Leo, making him clean the classroom and erasers for a week. Everyone knew that cleaning was nothing compared to a public apology. Assembly. That was a public execution. The girls' anger reached a boiling point, nearly blowing the roof off. I held up a hand to quiet them. Facing Leo's smug, triumphant grin, and Mr. Lee's blatant favoritism, I just replied coolly, fine. Monday assembly, right? I can do that. Chloe. Sarah was frantic. Don't be scared. We'll all go to the principal. I don't believe every adult in this school is terrible. If the principal doesn't help us, we'll post it online. The girls were furious, glaring at Leo and his crew with pure hatred. For too long, everyone had just ignored the insulting nicknames. They'd given us the cold shoulder. We thought our indifference would defeat their disgusting mouths. But we underestimated their capacity for cruelty. We underestimated their rock-bottom lack of morals. It started with whispers and escalated to them only using the nicknames little overweight, Chunky Pig, a slight overbite. Bugs Bunny, a little more body hair, Gorilla. These trash mouth guys always knew how to find a girl's weak spot. And they loved watching us get angry and jumpy. Then they just shrugged it off with that classic line. It's just a joke. Why can't you take a joke to excuse their terrible behavior? I was done with it. The girls were done with it. You like to joke, right? I smiled a cold, hard smile. I had an idea. I didn't write a single word of that apology. I didn't think I was wrong and I wasn't going to say I was. So I just grabbed an old essay from my bag, crossed out the title and wrote apology at the top. Then I strolled right up to the podium, holding that completely irrelevant piece of paper. I took the microphone from Mr. Lee, looked out at the entire school and said only one sentence. Please learn from me. Chloe, are you insane? Mr. Lee, realizing I was about to go rogue, looked like he was having a stroke. He lunged for the microphone trying to stop me like I'd let him. I dodged, holding the mic and started running across the stage yelling. I did nothing wrong. And I don't think my counterattack was out of line. Some people are just born jerks and won't learn, unless you beat the lesson into them. He loves giving people nicknames and laughing about it. But the moment someone gives him one back, he can't handle it. Leo, you're the most weak-willed person in this entire school. I'm telling you, you didn't win anything. Got the courage. Stop hiding behind biased pictures. Got the courage. Justify your little nickname habit. When your parents come to school, I'm going to ask them exactly how they raised such a disgusting, perverted piece of work. You're a shameless, pathetic clown. Just a joke for everyone to laugh at. Seizing the chance, I got everything off my chest. Finally, after a chaotic chase across the stage, school deans caught me, but I held my head high. I wasn't ashamed at all standing back at the podium getting chewed out. I was smiling, especially when I saw Leo, red-faced with rage, but too cowardly to show himself hiding from everyone's stares. I mimicked his old smug look right back at him. It felt amazing. Well said. Learn from you. You absolutely nailed it. The girls in my class started clapping, even as Mr. Lee screamed at them to be quiet. They just kept laughing and cheering for me. The applause spread and by my class, other classes started clapping too. Someone even yelled that I was a role model for all the girls. Felt amazing. So incredibly amazing. Turns out if I act bold enough, nobody dares to bully me, not even Mr. Lee. After realizing this whole mess blew up, because of his and the other teachers' bias, the head of discipline and the principal called them in for a talk. As soon as the assembly was over, they were dragged to the office and ripped a new one. For having no integrity as educators, Leo actually behaved. For a few days, he and his crew didn't dare use another nickname. They even started using our real names again. We didn't want trouble. All we wanted was to go to class in peace, to live a normal school life. Who the hell wakes up looking for a fight? So the matter was over, at least in my mind it was. I figured no one would mess with me again. I just didn't realize that some people are born petty, sore losers who have to win no matter what. Leo was one of those people. A few days later, a vague rumor started floating around the school. Forums and confession pages. Some girl at our school had a mom who worked in that kind of place, and drinks with old men for money. It was posted with a blurry, mosaic-faced photo of a woman in a cheongsam, a traditional Chinese dress. Because it involved taboo words, the students, desperate for drama, started digging, trying to figure out which parent was supposedly wild. After digging and digging, the rumors pointed to me because my mom loves wearing cheongsam. He'd worn one several times when picking me up from school. And just like that, in the mouths of these disgusting kids, my mom was being insulted. When I heard the rumor, I just went numb. I never thought someone would spread that kind of filth about me, let alone about my mother. I saw red. Pure unadulterated rage. No proof, no evidence. Just it's because my mom likes cheongsongs. When I find out which kids started this, I'm going to make them pay. So I started digging back. Threatened the student admins of the confession page. Told them this wasn't over. That spreading false defamatory rumors was a crime. I told them to give me the original source, or I'd see them all in court. This had blown up way too big. The admins were terrified of getting in real trouble, so they immediately gave me the account number. I followed the trail. The account was brand new, almost no activity, but in its tiny barren visitor log, I found one account that had repeatedly visited. The owner of that account was Leo. It all clicked. What else was there to understand? I laugh. A cold, sharp sound. I ran my fingers over my metal pencil case. I've been too gentle. I gave him a reason to hurt my mom. So the next morning, I stood at the classroom door, pencil case in hand, waiting for Leo. The second he walked in, I slapped him before he could even react. I brought the metal case down hard on his head. Everyone froze. No one knew why I'd lost it again. Why I was confronting him first thing in the morning. They just stared, stunned as I stood over Leo. waving my pencil case and yelling at him. Leo took several hits, his head swelling up. But he was still tough, still yelling, "Chloe, why are you hitting me? I didn't even do anything. What's wrong with you? What's wrong? You ask me what's wrong." The pencil case finally shattered, a sharp piece flying off and cutting my cheek. I wiped the blood away, smiling like a psycho. "I'm not just upset. I'm going to make you pay." The silence in the classroom was absolute, thick enough to cut with a knife. Leo was backed against the blackboard, his hands raised defensively to protect his bleeding head. His usual swagger was gone, replaced by a raw, naked panic. "I don't know what you're talking about," he shrieked, his voice cracking. "You're crazy. Someone get Mr. Lee. Get him." I spat, my voice dropping to a terrifyingly calm whisper that carried to the very back of the room. "Get the principal. Get the police. Because I'm pressing charges." I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone, slamming it down on the front desk. On the screen was a printed stack of screenshots. The IP addresses, the login times, the digital breadcrumb trail that connected the newly created anonymous account directly to Leo's personal Wi-Fi network. "You think you're a hacker, Leo?" I laughed, a harsh, jagged sound. "You think hiding behind an anime profile picture makes you invisible? I spent 5 hours last night with my cousin, who actually works in cybersecurity. You logged into the anonymous account from the same IP address you used to post your pathetic gaming streams." The color drained from Leo's face entirely. His eyes darted toward the door, then back to the phone. The realization hit him like a physical blow. He wasn't just dealing with a pissed-off girl anymore. He was dealing with a paper trail, defamation of character, cyberbullying, distributing falsified, sexually explicit rumors about a minor's guardian. I recited, stepping closer until I was inches from his face. "My parents are already talking to a lawyer. You didn't just mess with me, Leo. You mess with my mother. And for that, I am going to ruin your life." Before he could stammer out a lie, the classroom door banged open. Mr. Lee burst in, his face purple, his comb-over flying wildly. "Chloe, what is the meaning of this? Assaulting a fellow student. Are you out of your mind?" He lunged forward, grabbing my arm to pull me away from Leo. I didn't resist, but I didn't back down. I shook off his grip and pointed a bloody finger at Leo. "He fabricated and distributed rumors claiming my mother is a prostitute. I have the digital proof. If you try to sweep this under the rug like you did the nicknames, Mr. Lee, I will make sure the school board sees the documentation of your blatant favoritism and negligence." Mr. Lee froze. He looked at the blood on my cheek, then at the bruised, terrified boy against the chalkboard, and finally at the stack of screenshots on the desk. For the first time all year, he looked out of his depth. "To the principal's office," he managed to choke out. "Both of you. Now." The principal's office felt like a war zone waiting to happen. I sat in a stiff leather chair, holding a tissue to my bleeding cheek. Leo sat on the opposite end of the room, holding an ice pack to his swelling forehead. We were waiting for our parents. The principal, a stern woman named Mrs. Vance, was currently reviewing the folder of screenshots my cousin had helped me compile. Her face grew darker with every page she turned. The door flew open. A woman dripping in cheap, flashy jewelry and aggressively strong perfume barged in. "Leo's mother. My baby. Leo, honey, what did she do to you?" She shrieked, rushing to her son and pulling his face into her chest. She whipped her head around, her heavily made-up eyes locking onto me with pure venom. "You little savage," she spat, marching toward me. "Look at what you did to his beautiful face. Girls like you should be drowned at birth. You belong in a cage, not a school. I'm pressing assault charges. I'm suing your family for every penny." I didn't flinch. I just looked at her, realizing exactly where Leo had inherited his loud, trashy, entitled behavior. "Mrs. Miller, please control yourself," Principal Vance said sharply, standing up. "This is a serious matter, and your son is not the victim here." "Not the victim?" Leo's mother screamed, gesturing wildly to his bruised head. "She beat him with a metal box." The door opened again. My parents walked in. My father is a quiet, imposing man who runs his own architectural firm. My mother, the subject of Leo's filthy rumors, is a high school literature teacher. She was wearing one of her beautiful, tailored kipayos, her hair pinned up elegantly. She looked calm, but I knew that specific, deadly stillness. It was the calm before the hurricane. My father walked straight to me, his eyes immediately zeroing in on the cut on my cheek. He gently tilted my chin, his jaw clenching so hard a muscle twitched. "Are you all right, Chloe?" "I'm fine, Dad," I said quietly. My mother turned to face Leo's mother. "So," my mother said, her voice smooth as silk but laced with absolute zero temperature, "you must be the woman who raised the boy trying to destroy my reputation." Leo's mother puffed out her chest, trying to look intimidating. "My son didn't do anything. Your delinquent daughter attacked him, because she can't handle the truth. Everyone knows what you women who wear those tight dresses are really up to." The silence in the room was deafening. Even Mr. Lee, standing in the corner, looked horrified by the sheer audacity of the woman's ignorance. My mother didn't scream. She didn't throw a fit. She simply reached into her designer handbag, pulled out a sleek, black folder, and dropped it onto Principal Vance's desk with a heavy thud. "What is this?" Principal Vance asked, looking wary. "That," my mother said, her eyes never leaving Leo's mother, "is a formal cease and desist letter, drafted by our family attorney. It is accompanied by a notice of intent to sue for defamation, libel, and intentional infliction of emotional distress, naming Leo Miller and you as his legal guardians." Leo's mother blanched. You can't sue us. They're just kids. It's just schoolyard gossip." "It ceased being schoolyard gossip the moment your son posted my image on a public forum and attached the word prostitute to it," my mother replied coldly. "I am a licensed educator in this district. Your son's actions threaten my livelihood, my career, and my family's standing. I will not accept an apology. I will accept a settlement that bankrupts you, or I will see you in court." Leo shrank back into his chair, the reality of the situation finally crushing his arrogant facade. He looked at his mother, panic setting in. "Mom, I just wanted to get back at her for the assembly." "Shut up, Leo," his mother hissed, realizing the trap they were in. She turned to the principal. "This is absurd. My son's phone was hacked. Anyone could have posted that." "We have the IP logs, Mrs. Miller," Principal Vance said, her voice dripping with exhaustion. "The posts were made from your home network, during hours Leo was not at school. Furthermore, cyberbullying violates our district's zero-tolerance policy, given the severity and the sexual nature of the rumors." She took a deep breath. "I am recommending Leo for immediate expulsion." "Expulsion?" Leo's mother shrieked, her hands flying to her hair. "You can't expel him. It's his senior year. It will ruin his college applications. He should have thought of his college applications before he tried to ruin my mother's life," I said, finally speaking up from my chair. Leo's mother spun toward me, her face contorted with pure, unadulterated hatred. You little bitch. This is all your fault. If you had just kept your mouth shut and taken a joke like a normal girl." She lunged at me. She didn't make it 2 steps. My father, who had been standing silently by my side, moved with terrifying speed. He didn't hit her. He simply stepped into her path, his massive frame blocking her entirely, and caught her raised wrist midair. "If you touch my daughter," my father said, his voice a low, gravelly rumble that vibrated through the small office, "the lawsuit will be the absolute least of your worries. Do you understand me?" Leo's mother froze, staring up at my father, the fight completely draining out of her. She yanked her wrist free and stumbled backward, bursting into frantic, angry tears. "Mr. and Mrs. Miller," Principal Vance said, standing up and pointing toward the door. "Take your son and leave this campus. You will receive the official expulsion paperwork via certified mail by Friday." The aftermath of the pencil case incident was legendary. Leo was expelled. His family, facing the very real threat of a massive defamation lawsuit that would drain their savings, was forced to publicly settle out of court. They had to publish a formal retraction and apology in the local newspaper, clearing my mother's name entirely. The humiliation was so absolute that Leo's family ended up listing their house for sale and moving to a different school district 2 towns over before the semester even ended. As for me, I received a 3-day in-school suspension for the physical assault with the pencil case. When Principal Vance handed me the slip, she looked at me over her glasses. "Violence is never the answer, Chloe. You understand that, right?" "Yes, Principal Vance," I said, keeping a perfectly straight face. She sighed, a tiny, almost imperceptible smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. "However, your documentation of the cyberbullying was incredibly thorough. Consider the suspension a formality. Use the 3 days in the library to catch up on your reading." When I walked back into my homeroom after my suspension, the atmosphere was entirely different. The boys who used to snicker and whisper nicknames looked at their desks when I walked past. The few who had been part of Leo's immediate crew practically pressed themselves against the walls to give me a wide berth. I had become the girl who beat a bully bloody with a pencil case and legally exiled him from the town. I was terrifying. I loved it. Sarah, my deskmate, beamed at me as I slid into my seat. "You're a legend, you know that? Nobody has said a single nickname since you left. They're terrified you're going to hire a hacker to ruin their lives." I pulled out a brand new soft fabric pencil pouch. My parents had confiscated all metal school supplies, and smiled. Let them be terrified. Fear is a great motivator for respect. The rest of the school year passed in absolute, blissful peace. Mr. Lee, having been severely reprimanded by the school board for his blatant misogyny and failure to manage the classroom, requested a transfer to a different grade level. Our new homeroom teacher was a strict, no-nonsense woman who didn't tolerate a single out-of-line joke. I had won. 10 years later, the clinking of champagne glasses and the low hum of jazz filled the elegant ballroom. It was our 10-year high school reunion. I stood near the bar, sipping a glass of sparkling water, watching the familiar faces from a decade ago mingle and pretend they had all grown up to be wildly successful. I had done well for myself. I didn't go into cybersecurity, despite the rumors. I went into law. I was currently a junior partner at a firm specializing in digital defamation and cyber harassment cases. I had turned my defining high school trauma into a highly lucrative, deeply satisfying career of ruining the lives of internet trolls. Chloe. I turned. Standing there was Sarah, looking stunning in a deep green cocktail dress. We hugged, launching into the usual catch-up chatter about careers and relationships. Have you seen the guest list? Sarah asked, her eyes gleaming with the promise of gossip. No, I replied, taking a sip of my water. Who's here? Everyone, she grinned, including the ghost of high school past. She nodded toward the entrance of the ballroom. Walking through the doors was a man who looked vaguely familiar, but entirely diminished. It was Leo. He had lost his hair early, sporting a deep, unfortunate receding hairline. He had put on weight, and the expensive, flashy clothes he used to wear in high school had been replaced by a cheap, ill-fitting suit. He looked tired, worn down by a life that clearly hadn't panned out the way his arrogant teenage self had anticipated. I watched him scan the room. He spotted a few of his old buddies from his crew and headed toward them, but the reception was lukewarm at best. They exchanged awkward handshakes, and within a few minutes, Leo was standing alone near the buffet table, nursing a cheap beer. Word is he never finished college, Sarah whispered, leaning in. He bounced around a few community colleges after the expulsion, but nothing stuck. He works at a car dealership 2 towns over now. Karma is a remarkably efficient concept, I said, feeling absolutely no pity for the man. I decided it was time to mingle. I walked away from the bar, catching up with a few other girls from our old homeroom. We were laughing about Mr. Lee's terrible comb-over when I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned around. It was Leo. He looked nervous, shifting his weight from foot to foot. Up close, he looked even older than his 28 years. Chloe, he said, his voice lacking any of the old, booming confidence. Hi. I stared at him, my expression perfectly neutral. Leo. It's been a long time. Yeah, he rubbed the back of his neck, looking down at his shoes. Look. I know we didn't part on the best terms, but we're all adults now, right? Water under the bridge. I raised an eyebrow. Is there a point to this conversation, Leo? He forced a tight, awkward smile. Actually, yeah. I saw on LinkedIn that you're a lawyer now. Corporate stuff, right? My dealership is looking for some legal representation for a dispute with a supplier. I figured, hey, why not keep it in the high school family? Maybe you could give us a discount rate, for old time's sake. I stared at him. The sheer, unadulterated audacity of this man was almost impressive. 10 years later, and he still thought he could manipulate situations to his advantage. He still thought the damage he caused could be erased with a cheap smile and a request for a favor. I took a slow sip of my water, letting the silence stretch until it became suffocatingly uncomfortable for him. Leo, I finally said, my voice carrying the polished, razor-sharp edge of a courtroom litigator. I don't do corporate supplier disputes. Oh, he blinked, looking disappointed. What kind of law do you practice? I smiled. A cold, hard smile that I hadn't used since I stood over him with a broken metal pencil case. I specialize in prosecuting digital defamation, cyber harassment, and libel, I said slowly, watching the realization dawn on his face. I spend my days bankrupting men who think they can hide behind keyboards and spread filthy rumors to ruin women's lives. I'm actually quite famous for it. The color drained from Leo's face, a perfect replica of the terrified boy backed against the chalkboard 10 years ago. I see, he stammered, taking a step backward. So no, I concluded, my tone dismissing him entirely. I won't be representing your car dealership. And for the record, Leo, the water isn't under the bridge. The bridge burned down 10 years ago, and I danced in the ashes. Have a lovely evening. I turned my back on him and walked back to Sarah, leaving him standing alone by the buffet table, a pathetic, forgotten punchline to a joke he started a decade ago. What did he want? Sarah asked as I rejoined her. Just a consultation. I smiled, clinking my glass against hers. But he couldn't afford my hourly rate. The jazz band started playing a lively tune, the ballroom buzzing with laughter and conversation. I looked around at the women from my class, strong, successful, and unbothered by the ghosts of their past. We had survived the whispers, the nicknames, and the cruelty. We had grown up to be the architects of our own lives, while the boys who tried to tear us down were left sweeping the floors of the worlds we built. I took another sip of my water, a profound sense of peace washing over me. Some people are born jerks. But sometimes, if you hit them hard enough, they learn to stay out of your way for the rest of their lives.